On today's show, the impact of Alex Ovechkin and possible lineup changes we could see in his absence next on this edition of Locked On Capitals.
Your Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well, hello and welcome into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm so glad you decided to join me today. My name is Dan Holme. I've covered the Capitals for the last 3 seasons for Locked On and various other outlets before that. I'm also the host of the weekly show called The Capitals Minutecast, available wherever you find your podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. So in this edition of Locked On Capitals, we talk about the impact of Alex Ovechkin on this team. As we saw in the last game, the first game with Alex Ovechkin out of the lineup, and what did that mean for the Capitals? Well, for starters, it was a loss. How much of a role did that play with Alex Ovechkin being out of the lineup? I'll talk about that a little bit later. I'll talk about what Alex Ovechkin's absence means for the rest of the team. I think it was an easy conclusion to some people that it's just plug and play. So it's minus Alex Ovechkin and insert Andrew Mangiapane, and we'll be good to go. I think there is going to be a little bit more tinkering than first anticipated. I'll talk about that a little bit later. I'll talk about that despite the fact that the Capitals are minus Ovechkin, still a really great team. And what are some of the things they're doing well on offense? And then to close out the show, I will talk about defense, goaltending, and special teams, and ultimately the things that have worked outside of Alex Ovechkin. But just to get it going here, it's easy to be in a state of denial, almost like, yeah, he's gone. Who cares? It doesn't mean anything. Alex Ovechkin, sure, one of the greatest goal scorers of all time. We'll just pick it up and move on. I think it's going to be easier said than done. And if you are an everydayer of the show, you know, I spoke about yesterday that I think that this is an excellent opportunity to get a look at this team minus Alex Ovechkin. You kind of get a glimpse into the future of what this team will look like in the post-Ovechkin era. So like I said yesterday, it is making lemonade out of some lemons. And ultimately, what will this team look like? And will it persevere, or will it nosedive in his absence? And taking a look at his absence is set to be sidelined, like I talked about, for 4 to 6 weeks due to a fractured left fibula. This was officially announced by the team, and it's definitely a blow, not just for Ovi, but for all of us fans who have watched him chase that elusive all-time goals record by legendary Wayne Gretzky. And what does it mean is that, can he catch him this year? Is there enough runway in front of Alex Ovechkin to catch and pass Gretzky this season? Again, my initial projection was 35 goals. Maybe that's going to hold true, but maybe I'll be wrong and he'll come back and just put the pedal to the metal and surpass Wayne Gretzky, and it will all be able to put that in the rearview mirror. But it is going to be a difficult thing, considering that he is going to be missing 4 to 6 weeks. Currently, Ovechkin sits at 868 goals. Ovechkin was poised to make a serious push for Gretzky's 894. Some people were saying that it would happen in February, maybe in March, but this injury, which happened during a rough shin-on-shin collision, is what they're saying against the Utah team, halts that momentum. Ovi was spotted in a walking boot after the game, and we are all hoping for a swift recovery, as swift as possible, 4 to 6 weeks. But you know, the thing of it is, like I said on the show yesterday, is that I'm happy that we know definitively, relatively speaking, that it's going to be 4 to 6 weeks. Not it's going to be a bit. It's not going to be week to week. We know that it's going to be 4 to 6 weeks. But his impact, he does cast a wide shadow. Ovechkin is the cornerstone, the heartbeat of this team, and his absence will undoubtedly impact our league-leading average of 4.33 goals per game. Scoring 15 goals in short order, that is definitely a deficit that the Capitals are going to have to make up for somewhere else. Head coach Spencer Carbery will need to shake things up, potentially modifying the lines. And yesterday, I alluded to it. I didn't get to it fully that even Miroshnichenko did not draw in. It was Hendrik Slapierre that did, except on the wing. And rarely do I second guess Spencer Carbery, but I second guessed him in yesterday's game, and I think I would have done a different thing. I think the Capitals would have been better with Ivan Miroshnichenko in the lineup. Right now, anyway, he's a better player than Hendrik Slapierre. And I've heard that he went with Hendrik Slapierre because he broke camp with the team and he has more history, blah, blah, blah. I want the best guy that's going to give the Capitals the best chance at scoring goals to make up that deficit in Alex Ovechkin's absence. So that's one thing. I would say minus Hendrik Slapierre, insert Ivan Miroshnichenko, but you might want to widen the lens a little bit more. I know that second line has been quite dynamic for the Capitals, but how could that change? Connor McMichael could take the left wing with Pierre-Luc Dubois at center and Tom Wilson on the right. And you're thinking, yeah, that's kind of how it is right now, Dan, except maybe on the top line. Dylan Strome might lead the second line with Andrew Mangiapane and Alexei Protas. That is something I've been tinkering in my mind. Would that be a good lineup out there? Or would that give the Capitals a better chance at doing greater things? I think it's going to be interesting. That we had great luck, the Capitals, that is, with the lines the way they were. The third line was the question mark, but then they added Lars Eller, and it seemed like everything was great in the world of the Capitals. But I think with Alex Ovechkin, it's going to cause a bit of a domino effect, and you're going to start to see things change a little bit more than initially anticipated. But a guy that is definitely going to be able to seize the opportunity and make his season even better than it's already been is Connor McMichael. Connor McMichael has made a name for himself with 12 goals, and Protas is contributing as well with 7. So they do have players in place that will be able to pick up the slack in his absence. They're going to have to do it because of Ovechkin's timeline. Ovi's recovery will be a delicate balancing act. He needs to follow his fibula, he needs to allow his fibula to heal while also regaining his skating confidence. At 39 years old, this process won't be easy as things don't heal quite as quickly as they did, say, when he was 25 years old. And, I know he is that Russian machine that never breaks, but to be out 4 to 6 weeks, you're going to lose some muscle mass in your leg in particular, and probably cardiovascular health as well, that it's not going to be, okay, it's 4 to 6, drop me on the ice and goal, 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 goal. It might be, but I don't think that will be the case. If all goes well, he could return as soon as December 20th against the Carolina Hurricanes. If he needs the full 6 weeks, we might see him back on January 2nd against the Minnesota Wild. But I think what's important is to kind of put Alex Ovechkin to the back of your mind right now, as you're just going to spin your wheels worrying about what could happen if Ovi was in the lineup. He's not going to be in the lineup for the next 4 to 6 weeks. Now, depending on his recovery time, he could miss between 13 to 18 games. To keep his record pursuit alive, he'll need to average between 0.49 and 0.58 goals per game upon his return. And, like Tom Wilson, John Carlson said, never doubt the big man. But if not, we may have to wait until the 25-26 season for Ovi to seriously chase Gretzky's record. And there is a bit of worry in my mind, as I think that a lot of fans thought he had it on lock, that he was going to be able to do it this year. But what happened? A pretty major injury. He is only under contract this season and the following season, the 25-26 season. And then after that, who knows what would happen if he faced a major injury next season? It's going to be close. I think it's not going to be, it's not going to happen as quick as many people had perceived. And it is about a team binding together, and it's tough to see Ovechkin down. Even his longtime teammate Tom Wilson, who I think is going to be the future captain of this team, expressed surprise at the injury, especially given Ovi's incredible durability over his career. And there's a lot of injuries that you can play through, sprains. I've seen players play with broken ribs, this kind of thing. But a fracture of this nature, I just don't think any player is going to be able to muscle up and walk it off. Having only missed 35 games due to injury in 20 seasons, however, the entire Capitals squad has rallied around him, showing support for his journey to achieve something. That it is possible, and that, like I said, the tough part is things were going so well for the Capitals, for Alex Ovechkin, that this is a pretty major setback. But the Capitals in particular have been putting up impressive numbers in the offensive department, scoring 79 goals total, placing them just behind the Jets for the top spot in the league, averaging 4.19 goals per game. They are sitting second in that category. Nevertheless, scoring isn't everything when it comes to winning games. So this is what it's all about. It is about preparing, adjusting, and I think that Spencer Carbery is the guy to do it. Overcoming, because that's what you have to do. Unless we want to start waving the white flag right now and say, Ovechkin's gone, so just throw the whole season away. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think the Capitals are going to do fine. I think that it's going to be a bit of a learning curve. Again, it's not going to be plug and play. Oh, put Andrew Mangiapane up there and just push play. It's not the way it's going to be. I think there's going to be a little bit of tinkering going on. I guess it remains to be seen how it all plays out. All right, so coming up here after the break, we'll talk about what has worked well on the defense as well for the Capitals, and what needs to improve in that department as well. I'll discuss straight ahead. Game Time has a new feature called the Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. And that is one of the really frustrating parts, is that when your favorite band is coming or your favorite sports team's playing, what kind of tickets are going to be available, and what is the view of the seat or the stage or whatever the case might be going to be. Game Time makes it easy, and they take the guesswork out of buying tickets. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team. Every day you can find me over on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the show on Twitter. It's at Locked On Caps. And thank you all for making Locked On Capitals your first listen of the day. So next, let's talk about the defense and what has worked well. In the first segment, I talked about Ovechkin, his impact, and the offense, but the defense. So let's switch to the defensive side. The Capitals have been strong, allowing just 52 goals over 19 games. This is a team that has gotten markedly better with Chychrun and Roy. That it's interesting that you had two players, and I would say the blue line is a lot better than last season, averaging 2.74 goals against per game, and statistically, which ranks them ninth in the league for fewest goals allowed. They've shown their ability to keep pace even in high-scoring affairs. And, it is Chychrun, it is Roy, it's Carlson, it's Sandin, who's been really huge as well. And special teams, that's the big thing that has been a bit of a question mark on this team as well. is the power play, the PK, those kind of things. The Capitals have excelled in special teams as well, boasting the third best penalty kill at an impressive 86.7%. You take a look at the special teams, especially the power play. That was something that was tough for the Capitals, that they actually put two different coaches on it to try to fix the power play. It seems like it's doing better, and the PK has been really great as well. They've successfully killed penalties at 8 of their last 9 games, with fortunate timing rather than defensive breakdowns being the reason for some power play goals against. And you take a look at some of the deeper analytics as well, is that Nick Dowd recently discussed the team's defensive strategies. That's what we're talking about in this segment, is defense and special teams. Nick Dowd was emphasizing the focus on forcing opponents to play along the boards and limiting clean break-ins. So, you take a look at personnel, you take a look at players on the ice, and they have been important, but it's also about the implementation of better systems. I just think that the players, of course, have helped this team play better, but it just seems like what is going on out on the ice is being executed much better as well. This payoff has seen the Caps lead the league in first period goals with 31. That's quite something considering how they struggled last season, and ranked second for fewest goals conceded in the third period. So slamming the door shut in the third period, battening down the hatches. Now, although they have been outscored 23-20 in the second period, all things considered, this team is playing very, very well. I was talking about defense. I'm talking about special teams. Rasmus Sandin, in particular, has been outstanding on this team. Depth has been key for this team, with only 5 skaters having a plus-minus rating of 0 or lower. Rasmus Sandin stands out with a plus 15 rating. Quite something for Rasmus Sandin, as we know. That big move that was made to kind of address the blue line for the Capitals and kind of push it in a younger direction. One of the defensemen that is definitely going to be a part of the present and the future is huge. A plus 15 rating, showcasing strong personal performance. And it's just about utilizing Rasmus Sandin in the right situations. Sometimes that's part of the battle. It's the difference between being on the first pairing, second and third pairing. It's about proper utilization. So to dive into some deeper analytical data, block shots, that definitely can help your netminder, that definitely can help keep the opponent's scoring to a minimum. Defensively, the Caps have made their mark with a total of 985 block shots, placing them 6th in the league. Quite a stunning fact. Tom Wilson attributes this success to the team's cohesion and support on the ice. Yes, block shots. Dale Hunter approved. Not quite the same way as Dale liked to do it. He liked Alex Ovechkin laying out in front of slap shots. Definitely a different time, and well, it works for him in the London Knights. In any event, the Capitals are doing big things, blocking shots. So all things considered, I think things are going well for this team. In the first segment, I touched on offense. In the second segment, I talked about special teams, and I talked about the defense. That, it's easy to jump to conclusions that this season is going to be rough, or it's going to be a rough stretch, but I don't think it's the case. I think that if you take a 30,000, view of the team, use that wide angle lens and take a look at it, it's not just about Ovechkin. Him scoring 15 goals, of course, huge. His leadership and everything that he means for this team. But at some point, the Capitals will be a team minus the grade 8. So if you're asking me, I think that the team will face some setbacks, maybe a bit of a learning curve, but this team as a whole, total, I'm talking players, systems, coaches, I think they're in a really great position. All right, so coming up here after the break, I will talk about netminding and what has worked well for the Capitals, and ultimately what has helped the Capitals win a lot of these tight games. I'll discuss straight ahead. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. And listen, there is a lot of football that's played on any given Sunday or Monday or Thursday, and some of those games you're into, some of them you're not. But if you want vested interest, open up the FanDuel app and put a little bit of money on the game. All of a sudden, they got that much more exciting. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It is your team every day. So one of the things the Capitals have in spades is net minding. And what I'm going to talk about is that, they have two great players on the big team. Of course, I'm talking Charlie Lindgren and Logan Thompson. But also the future is that it is a bit mercurial. We don't know, do we, that, both Hunter Shepard, both Charlie Lindgren and Logan Thompson are in contract years, and Hunter Shepard is as well, is that this team could look different next year. Is there the crazy possibility that neither one of those netminders gets an extension? I think that is a pretty remote possibility, but I also think that having both of those players sign extensions is a remote possibility as well. But for right now, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. Let's concentrate on what's working really well in goal. Logan Thompson has been a revelation for this team with a record of 9-1-1. 9-1-1. There is no emergency in net for the Capitals, and a .914 save percentage. Quite a stunning thing for a great tandem in Logan Thompson. Two great netminders for under $2 million. I can't get over that. Ranking 12th in the NHL. And Chucky Sideburns, Charlie Lindgren, the outlaw, has also shown promise with a .900 save percentage, performing at a .917 rate in all strengths since November 1st. Both goalies have risen to the occasion. We've seen glimpses of greatness from both of them, but if I'm going to pick one over the other, I'm going to say that Logan Thompson has been the better one thus far. Take a look at the back of his hockey card. That would indicate it as well, if we're talking wins and losses, that kind of thing. But all things considered, both netminders have done a really great job and risen to the occasion, performing well under pressure despite some occasional breakdowns. And that's one of the big differences this year over other years, is that, oftentimes things would fall apart, later in the game, and the netminder would fall apart, and the defense would fall apart, kind of hanging your netminder out to dry. That hasn't been the case this year. All things considered, I think that the netminders, both Charlie and Logan, have done a really good job because there's been stout defense in front of the team as well. But areas of improvement, all things considered, this Caps team is playing well. But if it's not all gravy, it's not all a highlight reel, there is much to celebrate. There remains room for improvement as well. The Caps, who once led the league in fewest shots allowed per game, have slipped to 10th, now allowing an average of 28.3 shots. They've also given up 170 high danger scoring chances, which places them around the middle of the pack in the NHL. So all things considered, in this segment, I'm talking net minding and closing it out, talking about putting a bow on it. I've talked about Ovechkin. I'm talking offense, defense, net minding, and to close it out here, some things that can work on. Not a lot needs to be addressed. I got to be honest with you. this team as a unit is built for great things. But like I talked about in yesterday's show, is that the leadership on this team is really going to have to prove their worth. I'm looking at you, Tom Wilson, in particular. If you envision yourself as having that C on your chest at some point, this is a prime opportunity to prove to everyone why you are deserving of such a thing. I'm all in on it, but I want to see it, and it's quite a role. It's not something that I think that you can just bestow on anyone. That hey, you're the captain of this team, or you're the alternate, or this or that. You have to have leadership qualities. You have to have players on your team. You have to get their ear when they're talking, and I think that Tom Wilson has that. John Carlson, Nick Dow, Dylan Strome. These kind of players, that this is the leadership core of this team. And, also, you take a look at it. Chychrun is newer to the team, but he is wise in the realm of hockey as well, that there are, a good leadership core on this team. It is up to them to take charge and say, hey, our captain's gone. We're going to be the group that gets it done. They have no other choice. All right. Once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals and making it your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out Locked On NHL, where they break down all of the NHL action 7 days a week. Check them out on YouTube or wherever you find your podcasts. All right. Once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It is your team every day. My name is Dan Holme, and I'll talk to you again next time.